after we finished game night, I just like stood up for like an hour. I was like, I just need to stand.
Yeah, I feel it. Yeah, my Apple Watch is begging me. It's begging me to. Welcome to Without a Roadmap. My name is Yonas.
And I'm Cam. We're both PMs here at Parlor, which is a startup located in downtown Boston.
Yeah, so this is a show for the product people who don't have all the answers. We tell the stories of PMs who get the job done but are still figuring it out.
Yep. So we're here to share our perspective as early career PMs and also bring on guests so that they can share their stories and their experiences so we can all figure this thing out together. So we've had 3 guests so far, back to back to back. So I want to first thank Eliana, Caitlin, and John for coming on the show, being our first 3 guests. Shout out to y'all. But today it's just us 2.
Yes. Very esteemed guests. So yeah, I really appreciated having them on. Hope you guys did as well. But I think, yeah, it's nice to kind of come back to our roots where we started, just the 2 of us, especially with this, very special episode. I think, as everybody knows, we're dealing with a very interesting situation around the globe with the spread of the coronavirus. And due to that, it's kind of had a huge impact on obviously everybody's daily life, but kind of with respect to what we're interested in talking about here, and just the impact that it's had on Parlor as an organization, as well as our roles at Parlor as PMs. So I thought that it might be interesting to kind of talk about how it's impacted us, also from company perspective, from product perspective, culture, all that. And I think that there might be a lot of overlap with how your companies are dealing with this and things of that nature. So I thought it might be interesting to dive into.
Yeah, I definitely agree. First, I want to say hope everyone's staying healthy, staying sane, taking care of both your physical health and also your mental health, because being not being able to kind of go out and just like go to a restaurant with your friends and catch up with friends, family stuff can be very taxing on your mental health. So just want to make sure everyone's staying healthy out there. But yeah, definitely I think today we should definitely just kind of speak on how this current situation has moved the team at Parlor to a fully remote company now. And then also how that's also changed, the market's also changed because of the whole coronavirus situation. And then how that's impacted our product priorities and what we're thinking of working on, and what we've learned so far based on the first week and a half of dealing with this unexpected situation.
Yeah. So like you said, I think the thing that it's impacted the most from a business perspective for us also has the greatest bearing on our roles as PMs, because it's product priorities and kind of how we've had to shift and kind of stay nimble, and kind of our understanding of what's happening, how it's impacted the market, and through all of that, how we prioritize what we're currently working on. So I think we're kind of shifting from being in a space where we're kind of in the go-to-market like planning mode, and our product priorities are like majorly kind of defined by prospects or people in our sales pipeline, and trying to make sure that we're building things that will eventually close those deals. And that's all good and all, but with this current situation, like a lot of there's kind of been a slight contractionary effect on the economy, and obviously businesses are impacted, budgets are impacted at companies, and so because of that, we've seen some deals put on pause, and that's kind of given us the opportunity to step back a little bit from working on this like kind of customizations and work for kind of specific potential customers, and kind of going back into working on big picture like vision stuff that we've been working on, and had kind of in the roadmap but had put on pause. So it's exciting because that's the type of work that we feel is foundational and necessary for the product. But it's like these big undertakings.
Yeah, a lot of work, a lot of thought, because this is what we always envisioned, or like what the founders envisioned. So we're actually being able to kind of take a step back and work on those things. But it also comes with certain trade-offs, because the things that are visionary, that we think are visionary, also take a lot of time to think through, design, and all come to a agreements from the first pass without it being like 4 months of work. So it's also that trade off. But
Mm,
I think what the situation has taught, or has really taught me, not really taught, but also has like kind of hit home and hammer the point, is you can't be too attached to like what you're currently building. So I mean, for both of us, we both had different set of priorities and features that we were both scoping out, dealing with Jonah, our designer, and also writing stories for. And those priorities have obviously shifted because of what you just said. And so it just kind of hit home on the point where you can't really be too focused and too attached to certain things that you're about to build, because the market could shift, a big client can come in or something like that, and you have to just completely shift your priorities in order to meet that situation and become successful. And so
mhm,
I feel like the takeaways for me in this situation is just not becoming attached to certain functionality because of certain situations.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
like for example, with the situation we're all dealing with now is um like when a market like that shifts and people's like our potential buyers, this market shifts and they're not really focused on buying software for whatever reason, you kind of have to take that and kind of just shift your priorities to kind of maybe focus on things you were thinking of building but were put on hold in case of us, or maybe just kind of focus on um, just cleaning up your product. So maybe there's some outstanding bugs that you guys, that the team may have had, that have been put on hold because they weren't higher priority, but they just make the overall experience a little cleaner. Maybe you focus on that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really, really true, especially for product people. We, kind of can fall in love with ideas and, potential solutions for those problems we think
Yeah,
exist. But it's really important to understand that at the end of the day, like we are kind of, still going to be tied to business goals, and those business goals are what keep the lights on. So, um,
exactly.
yeah, it's like, that's, it's really important context. And yeah, so the idea of kind of not being tied down to anything in
Yeah.
particular, super, super important.
I mean, you brought up like you have to be tied in with company goals, and so say you're dealing with just the normal day to day routine of your product life, but sales brings in this huge potential client. It could be a multi-million-dollar deal, and you're like, and then the your manager or the head of products, all right, we're shifting our entire roadmap, our entire priorities in order to fit the needs of this biggest client that could be game changing for our company, changing for our company. So that happened to me at a previous role. Like we had to just completely shift our entire this roadmap for 6 to 8 months. Where like it's a good thing where it can be company changing for your like your company, especially if you're a small startup like any startup in the world today. But it also be kind of nerve wracking, especially if like you're a product person and you're really excited for these new features, or if you're customer facing, you're having to deal with your clients, your accounts that won't get the features that you promised them maybe 2 weeks ago because the entire roadmap has changed because of one big client.
Yeah, and kind of to that point, and more like tying it to the current situation, it's at the same time you don't want to invest too many resources in that one particular in those specific customizations, or working to kind of sell to a specific client, especially if it's not kind of built with your greater vision and also with like potential value to your general user population in mind,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
those like unexpected shocks could happen. And when
exactly.
you would hate for a potential contract to fall through, and you'd already invested time and energy in something that isn't going to bring value to your product and your users down the line. So it's kind of like a prescient reminder that, at the end of the day, everything that you do should have like your general user population in mind whenever possible. I know it's not always going to be the case, but whenever possible. Thankfully, in our case at Parlor, anything that we do take on for a potential client is going to be something that we still think is going to bring value to the general user population. Like at this stage, we haven't done any specific customizations
Yep.
to where it would where we do feel like we're putting all of our resources into a place that is not going to actually support the rest of the users. So I think it's going to vary company to company, but I don't know. It's just obviously things like this are so unexpected. It's really
Yeah, yeah,
difficult
yeah.
to even prepare or think about it. But they happen. So being ready, being prepared, super useful. Um, I think like another thing that comes up as a takeaway for me is like just that thought of like, if you do have one of those strategic clients or a customer that churns because of an unexpected shock like this, or you don't want that to have such a drastic impact on your product priorities to the point where it throws you off, or off the ability to kind of continue providing value to your end users.
Yeah, yeah. It's also those two situations that we just brought up. Just having a big potential client come on and want to buy your software, so your roadmap shifts to meet their needs, or maybe a strategic client may churn because of a competitor that has a certain set of functionality that you don't currently have. It just hits home to the point with me that I've been saying is that like not all your customers, not all your users are equal. Like for the big accounts, you have to do certain things to make them happy because they're your strategic accounts, their company changing. You just kind of have to do whatever you can to make them happy and to keep those deals alive.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's kind of crazy with all these things in mind and everything that's going on. The importance of communication, just given the fact that we're all like working in different areas now, and I know a lot of places have the remote work culture thing down pretty like like solid. Like Zapier, they are kind of like the example of like remote work and how efficient you can be. But it's new to us, and with all these shifting priorities, it's required that we're in constant contact with one another, for better, for worse. And, just like the idea of shifting to remote, and especially with so much going on, is, I feel like that's something that everybody's dealing with. Like, I think, it might be interesting to dive into that kind of subject.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, even with shifting priorities, like regardless of if you're remote or in the office, like it's always just crucial to be able to communicate that quickly across not only the product team, but also the whole entire company, just to keep everybody in the loop of what's going on. So everyone's kind of just driving towards the same end goal. And
Hmm.
you just kind of limit people trying to like segue off into their own specific things that they need to do. It's like
Hmm.
important to keep everybody aligned. But in
Right.
terms of how we've shifted to everybody being remote, it's been interesting. I think we've handled it pretty well so far.
Mhm.
What are some of the things that have helped you so far in this fully remote work culture? Because I think you were remote before for a couple of weeks at previously at Firecracker, right?
Right. Yeah. So we did remote work after the acquisition. They they kind of got rid of the office, shut us down, sent us home. So I'm lucky enough to have, like, I was able to bring my entire work setup from there home.
Nice.
So
That's
and
lit.
when I let,
That's lit.
so that's why I'm coming in crispy clear. Cam might be a little grainy, but
I'm out here bumming it out in my
yeah.
living room.
So I was able to bring my standing desk home, which has not changed at the level since I've gotten it, but it's a standing desk, and and I
Yeah, I
got
need
the
that. I mean, yesterday after like the full work day, I had to just stand up for an hour. I was like, yo, I just been sitting down for like
yeah,
six,
I've got
eight
so
hours
many cords.
straight.
Just got way too many cords attached to it. Like, I tried putting it at once, and like my laptop went flying. It was like, all right, this is staying. This is staying right here, but it looks like a nice desk, so at least it's got that for it. But yeah, I think it's super important that you're communicating effectively. But I think there's a couple of things that I could probably learn from other people, is trying to try and pull some feedback on how to do that well, because you can fall into the trap of like either being two heads down and not paying attention to things happening around you, or you can
Yep.
fall into the trap of like having too many meetings and spending too much time on call rather than actually doing heads down work. So if I'm looking at my calendar, actually, I got in the background, and it's like one day I have like 2 hours of like actual heads down work time, and then the other day I have the whole entire day. And so, I think there's like a balance in between there where, you're communicating effectively, and it might not be setting up a formal meeting, but it might just be, pinging person and hopping in a Slack chat, which I
Yeah.
found most useful instead of just like typing back and forth,
Yeah.
for example.
Definitely having like a whole bunch of meetings on your calendar, especially when they're like, say you have a 30-minute meeting, then you have like 5-10 minutes to your next meeting. It's like you can't really do anything in those 5 to 10 minutes. So
Yeah,
like
that's a
you're just gonna
wash.
scroll on Twitter, Instagram, and just wait until like
Yeah,
the next
yeah,
meeting starts. But
yeah,
I think for
yeah, and
me, in terms of like this whole moving to remote thing, like the things like I really appreciate is like when you send a message to somebody in Slack, whether it's like into a public channel or to like a one-to-one direct message, just having somebody, what I try to do is just give them like a got it, cool, okay, or like even give them like a thumbs up emoji on the message just to make sure that they know that you read it.
Mm,
Because like when you're in the office, you can, if you ask somebody a question in Slack, they can quickly just take off their headphones or like walk over to you, like, hey, like I saw you mentioned that, we can just talk about it real quick. But I feel like when you're all remote and you send a message in Slack, like the person can actually either be like reading the stuff you sent them or like watching the video you sent them, but you don't really know they're taking that action because you can't see them do
mm.
it.
Right. Yeah. And that's so important. I've started like feeling like I'm doing too many thumbs ups to kind of sign it off. But like,
You
if it
need it
helps,
though. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it
It
helps,
definitely, it
then
helps me. So if I send you something, give me a thumbs up.
all right, will do. I'll keep that in
I
mind.
appreciate that.
And on top of that, it's also along the lines of Slack communication. It can get so hard to like understand tone, and
Yeah, for sure.
especially with like there being so many changes happening right now, and people have like their own opinions on what should be done. It like tone can be lost really quickly, and I think it's important that whenever possible, if it's through using just doing calls or like throwing in an emoji when necessary, it's
Yeah,
super
definitely got to
important to like
spam the
try and like
emojis.
yeah, just like to keep it light, because at the end of the day, we would like hopefully we're all working together, we're all on this team, and even if it you can get in disagreements online, it's important that you're like getting the positive tone over,
Yeah,
even if it's not like
yeah,
you shouldn't be negative in Slack.
exactly.
It's not good
Like
for the
I
culture.
I've been like hesitant of like adding people in like public channels because like when you add somebody, it can be taken as if you're calling them out. Like, hey, like you didn't do this, but like sometimes I just really want to know like that you are
Uh-huh.
that you saw my message.
Yeah. No, I
So
feel the same way. It's funny you bring that up, because I feel the same way. I don't like adding somebody, but it needs to be done. Like sometimes
yeah,
it's just for the notification, and like
exactly.
if you're not actually like pinging the right person, then it gets lost, and that's the worst case scenario. So hey, at me whenever necessary, man.
Yeah, I
Just
appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. But like on that line, I think the impact that the remote culture has had on culture is pretty profound, because we are like a pretty tight knit team. Like
Yeah, for sure.
everybody comes in the office just about every day, even though we are remote friendly. And I think a lot of that's obviously because of the ease of collaboration, but also just because we enjoy spending time with one another. So now we're just spending like all day typing at each other, and I think that we do lose a little bit of that camaraderie. So I'd be interested to hear what people are doing to try and like keep like team culture, and like
Yeah,
keeping like maintaining the positivity and with one another.
yeah,
And I
super
know we had
important.
our go ahead.
I was just saying super important because like you just need to maintain your company culture, make sure everybody's like doing well, like in this crazy time right now because everyone's going through different struggles, dealing with not being able to just see other people as normally as they do. So it's just crucial to keep like the good spirits, the good energy going with the whole team and the whole company. Like for us, we did like this thing last night. Jackbox TV just had a company game night virtually, which was super lit. I was trash
Yeah.
at it. I came in last both times.
Okay.
But
Okay. Cam is
game
really
w-
good at game night when it's actually like strategic board games, like
yeah, yeah.
especially when there's deception involved. Cam's good
Those
with
are my
those.
vibes. Those are my
Yeah.
vibes.
Yeah, stupid trivia. That's not it for you. Just keep it a buck with you, but it's okay.
I
You've got
accept that. I accept it.
yeah. You still shoot 90% from the free throw line, so it's all good.
Facts. Facts.
Yeah.
Oh, my guy Al Paul. He's the coach on Boston University's staff. They won a championship last week before everything got shut down. So he was hurt that I didn't give him a name shout out. So I had to give him a name shout out. That's all.
Your coach is tuning in.
Well, Al Paul, he's my roommate. He's poster's cracked. He's my roommate. And so he's the director of basketball operations. But
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
the
All right,
head coach,
all right.
Jay Jones, I can probably send him the podcast. He has his own podcast actually. Yeah, I'll send it to him, see what he thinks.
All right. Yeah, man. We're trying to get all the feedback we can from podcast people. But yeah, shout out to all Cam's friends who've been tuning in. My friends too. Maybe they're not letting me know. Shout out to everybody. But yeah. So sorry, back on track here.
How about we just wrap it up? I feel like we've been at it for a little longer.
Yeah. So important update. We are now live on Spotify, which is exciting. You can check out the
True.
Without a Roadmap podcast. Just search us on your Spotify app. Be sure to subscribe, download it all. Make sure we take up all that space.
We'll drop the link somewhere below or above wherever this is posted on LinkedIn or Twitter. So we'll make sure to do that.
And we should be on the Apple Podcast app soon. If there's any other platforms we get on, we'll be sure to update you. So that was a request that somebody made, that we make it easier to view these or listen to the podcast outside on like a phone. So shout out to everybody who is providing all that good feedback.
Yeah, yes, sir. So last thing to kind of just wrap up the key takeaway from me dealing with this crazy time and how to just be adaptable to certain situations. Just for me, what I think when we talk about the buzzword agile and software development is just truly being able to adapt to whatever situation on the fly, like not always just relying on the certain frameworks of agile, like the 2-week sprint, stuff like that. It's more just about being able to adapt your product priorities and your roadmaps to whatever situation you're currently in, whether that be the market shifting or a big client comes in or one of your best clients may churn because of certain stuff that happens. Just being able to kind of just adapt to those needs and get the job done.
Yeah. And I'd say my big takeaway is on like the interpersonal side, because as PMs, we all know that's one of the most important things we can do. So be sure to make sure that you keep the channels of communication between all the internal stakeholders open and contact them frequently and as often as possible. But at the same time, try and, try to like minimize the amount of time spent in meetings as possible. I'm still trying to improve that. I've had like a whole 30 minutes of free time today. So I need to probably schedule my weeks better. So yeah, that's, make sure that you're taking your communication seriously.
Cool. Well, that's it for today's episode. I think this is probably our longest one between us two, probably because we just want to just talk to other people after being at home so long. But just make sure to go to Spotify if you guys use Spotify. Hit the follow button on Spotify and download our episode. Help us out. Help the boys out.
Yep.
Appreciate everybody
tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and wash your hands.
Stay healthy. Yeah, facts.